Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in session number 3 of the Calling All Trades speaker series, where we talk about jobs for a green economy. My name is Drew Johnstone, and I'm a senior sustainability analyst with the City of Santa Monica's Office of Sustainability and the Environment. And I'm here joined by Michael Jackson and Alice Tiffany, who are also with the city. And we're really excited to have Estelle Reyes and Daniel Ferguson join us today from the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, where they are going to be telling us all about the Green Jobs Report that came out of their organization, which highlights a lot of the really interesting green jobs in LA County. And so we will have sort of an interview style format today. I've got some pre-prepared questions that Daniel and Estelle can answer, and looking forward to have a really fruitful conversation. And it looks like we have about 12 people on the Zoom today, and we'll be opening it up to questions at the end. So please take notes throughout. And this will also be recorded, so folks can watch this on YouTube in the near future. So with that, I would love for Daniel and Estelle to introduce themselves and maybe talk a little bit about their career journey and what they do at LACI, and then we can get into the Green Jobs Report.
And Ferg, would you like to start?
Sure, I can start. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Ferguson, better known as Ferg, and I have the good pleasure and fortune of working at LACI as the Director of Workforce Development. For the last 12 years, I've been in workforce development, working in different capacities as a job developer, and worked at Job Corps for the lion's share of that time, serving as a senior level director, helping to monitor KPIs, performance, and also training across the nation, where I had oversight of 9 Job Corps centers. Prior to that, my career was in sales, and so I've kind of jumped from sales to workforce development. But I believe all of these opportunities I've had has helped me to help others fulfill my personal mission, which is to help others to realize their full potential. And so it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and I look forward to talking more about green jobs.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ferg. And good afternoon, everyone. I am Estelle Reyes. I'm the SVP of Enhancing Community at LACI. So I have the direct pleasure of working very closely with Ferg on all of our workforce development work, as well as all of the programs we've created to create pathways for underrepresented groups to participate in the green economy. And with regard to career path, I think I'm going to go in reverse because Ferg went backwards. I think I'm going to try to go forwards because my path was very, very wayward. Like I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life because I was super interested in so many different things. So I'll just share a little bit of background. When I was in college, I studied neuroscience. I thought I was going to be a doctor, but after I graduated, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to go to more school. So then I totally did a pivot. And I actually ended up like exploring finance. So I worked at an investment bank for a couple of years, which I really enjoyed, but I realized my heart wasn't really into it. So I was like, okay, this is not it either. And so just to give you a little bit of background, both of those kind of career decisions were heavily influenced by my parents. Both of my parents are retired now, but my mom was a pediatrician. So she was like, be a doctor. And my dad was a loan officer at a bank and he was like, be in finance. So I was like really following their paths until I paused and really like thought like, what is it that I want to do? Like, what am I personally interested in outside of my parents? So it was at that point that I decided to become a teacher. So I became a first grade teacher for a couple of years, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then I got my master's in education because I wanted to really deepen my knowledge. And then when I graduated, I found an opportunity to work at a nonprofit called the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, which provides school-based entrepreneurship programs for middle and high school students from low-income communities. And when I got that job, it seemed kind of random because I'd never worked a nonprofit before. But when I started working, I was like, wow, this is really cool because this opportunity blends my backgrounds in business and education together in a really meaningful and impactful way. And it was then that I realized, like, you can actually kind of create your own job by putting in all of the ingredients of the things you love to do. And then now in my role at LACI, I have the pleasure of doing work that's at the intersection of business, of education. And now I get to bring back some of my STEM days from college because we're working in clean tech and a lot of our STEM related fields. So now my role is kind of encompassing everything I've ever done in the past, all kind of rolled up into one. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for a little bit of background on both your career paths. We invited you to talk about the Green Jobs Report, but before we do that, can you define what a green job is? This is mentioned in the report. I mean, there's some maybe more obvious green jobs like a solar installer or electric vehicle manufacturer, but can you give us an overview on how the report defines green jobs and what are some of the non-obvious green jobs that are included in your research?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really fun putting this report together. We convened a group of thought leaders, which was our advisory group, and this was led by HR&A Advisors. And while there's no conclusive definition of what a green job is, really the summation of it is a company that is manufacturing a product that is sustainable or providing a service, or perhaps actually having a sustainable process when creating that product or providing that service. But really it all kind of collapses into three different sections when it comes to green jobs. So there's your green collar job, which is much similar to that of a blue collar job. But as we make this just transition, these jobs will be green. Some of your traditional roles like an auto mechanic will now be an EV maintenance technician. And so it's a green collar job. And then you have your administrative type office operations roles, which might be a project manager or might be a front desk receptionist, but working for a company that gives credence to green processes or actually has a green product. And then you have your more technical roles that are, I would say, pretty non-traditional. So that would be a software developer, an IT support specialist, or it might be an engineer, but actually working for a startup that is in the clean tech space or in the green job ecosystem. So that's really kind of the sum total of what a green job is, and that's how it's defined in the Green Jobs Report.
You say there are more green jobs in Los Angeles than people might think?
Yes, absolutely. There's tons of green jobs. In fact, there are green jobs that LACI is on a mission to create in Los Angeles County. Based on our study with HR&A Advisors, the Green Job Study, or the Green Jobs Report, we believe that there could be about 600,000 green jobs created by 2050. And in fact, these green jobs have reported to pay somewhere around 12 to 18% more than your average wage, which is around $27.50 for green job growth or green job potential in terms of wage.
And just to piggyback on Ferg, like with our goal of 600,000 green jobs by 2050, just to give you some context, like right now, about 1 in 12 jobs in LA County is considered like a green job. So that's like 338,000. So just thinking about where we are in 2021 at 338,000 and how we're going to blow it up by 600,000 in 2050.
Well, I'd love to maybe just get into the report itself and what are some of the big findings, and if you can talk about some of the jobs that are highlighted in the report and where you see a lot of the growth potential.
Sure, happy to. So there are a number of different sectors that were called out in the report. So maybe I can kind of just run down them like in order, kind of by sector and the particular roles within them, just so you have like a landscape of what this looks like. So underneath zero emissions transportation, which as you all know, because of federal, local, like state mandates are all going to be headed in that direction. So the opportunities here include EV charging technicians, like servicing like the EV chargers, software application developers, vehicle assemblers, because there's a lot of EVs now also being made locally in the US. Automotive mechanics, and just echoing Ferg, that would be like the transition from a traditional auto mechanic to an EV maintenance tech. So that's zero emissions transportation. There are also opportunities underneath renewable energy. So under here, they've got solar photovoltaic technicians, so servicing solar panels, wind turbine technicians and machinists, electrical engineers, and then also solar sales consultants. So kind of like running the gamut of all the types of green jobs Ferg mentioned, from like an engineer to a technician to an admin. There's tons of opportunities there. And then two more kind of high level kind of themes. The third is energy storage and grid modernization. So the job opportunities under this umbrella include battery design engineers, battery testing technicians, battery manufacturing technicians, smart grid engineers, power system operators. So thinking how we can not only increase clean energy, but decrease our reliance on the grid through microgrids and other systems. Like, these are going to be the emerging professions that are going to come up. And then finally, the fourth highest growing sector is underneath transit, water, infrastructure, construction, and building trade. So like everything else. So underneath this umbrella, the high opportunities for jobs include construction workers, and then specialized people like electricians, carpenters, HVAC technicians with appropriate training on green building technologies and materials. And then finally, workers for subways and light rail, installing like electrical infrastructure for rail and buses, as well as stormwater capture, storage, filtration, and distribution. So as you can see from that long laundry list, a lot of those are trades. So like tons of opportunities to get plugged into the green economy.
That's fantastic. Do you think you could go through that list again in those four main sectors and talk about what resources are available for entrepreneurs or trades professionals who want to get into those sectors? Are you aware of local either colleges or organizations that offer training if they're looking to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will take a stab at it. For please add. So maybe for each sector, for zero emissions transportation, like I think, you know, our program, for example, has been like heavily focused. All of the workforce development trainings that Ferg has led previously have all been focused on zero emissions transportation. So we would be a good kind of first stop. Also, one of our startups called Charger Help, they run a program specifically focused on servicing EV chargers. We actually utilize their curriculum for our cohort. So they would be another great place. And I wonder, like, Drew, does it make sense? Maybe we can send you a follow-up email with links so people know where to go.
Absolutely. And this is going to be on YouTube, and in the description, we'll have links to all of the resources that we provide. And you just mentioned Charter Help. We just had a meeting with them today, and they're going to be the 8th speaker in this speaker series. So yeah, Charter Help will have their exclusive session on August 25th.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. Yeah, so they would be like our North Star around like zero emissions transportation and ways to get plugged in. Ferg, any other thoughts around zero emissions transportation?
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out and draw attention to our community college partners like LA Trade Technical College, which is really a hidden gem in Los Angeles County, arguably, that's offering zero emissions transportation training. We just finished our collaboration with them, cohort 5, and provided 13 participants with hybrid EV maintenance training. They went through a rigorous accelerated program. In 5 weeks, they learned 6 months are the equivalent of 1 semester of material. And so they are a really great partner. And also Rio Hondo College, which is located in the Whittier area, has a phenomenal program, and I believe has a really solid partnership with Tesla and other EV manufacturers as well. So definitely community colleges is a great partner. And then also, as Estelle mentioned, We certainly would love participants to come to our fellowship program as that first step moving toward zero emission transportation training.
Absolutely. And just a quick heads up, just in terms of, upcoming trainings, because we've done a little bit of planning looking ahead. In terms of zero emissions transportation, we will have an electric bike maintenance training, as well as an EV charger, EV charger, technician training. So just to put that on your radar, once we solidify those dates, would love to engage any of you who might be interested.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, with e-bike sales, shot up through the roof during COVID, and it's really a fantastic way for people to get out of their cars and expand different ways that they can get around the city, and not only personal e-bikes, but also the e-bike fleets that many cities have contracted with, the bike share programs. So they are indeed hiring mechanics. So it's really smart of you to start that program.
Yeah, no, of course. And maybe just one quick note to mention, some of the programs we have created for workforce, they are done in complement to the other team, our other team at LACI our pilots team that's creating community pilots. So we have a pilots team that's doing zero emissions mobility community pilots that are deploying the e-bikes. So we're working on the workforce development training that will help complement the pilots that we're deploying. So that's kind of the logic behind some of the themes that we've created in the past. So I'll continue down the list, if that makes sense in terms of how to plug into the various sectors. Okay, so the second one is renewable energy. So a potential opportunity there could be with Grid Alternatives. They have a solar core program, and Ferg's actually done a stellar job engaging the team at Grid. So I don't know, any thoughts or anything you'd like to share, Ferg?
Yeah, sorry, I have to find my unmute button. So Grid Alternatives is a phenomenal partner, and they've really done a fantastic job at providing training to underrepresented groups and communities in solar panel installation. They have a couple of programs that are running. I believe they have more of an extended program and a shorter program. And they've done incredible work. And I believe they have about 3 or 4 programs that run annually. And so they are really good resource. And as Estelle mentioned, more than happy to send an email after this with all the links so that everyone or anyone who's interested can get plugged in with Grid Alternatives.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ferg. The third one is energy storage and grid modernization. And this is something we're actually very interested in getting more involved in. So the organization that we've been looking to as kind of a model for this is Arizona State University. They actually have a microgrid masterclass that they put together primarily actually for veterans. That's the population that they're primarily serving, but we look forward to collaborating with them. The next cohort for our workforce development program at LACI is going to be focused on microgrid. So if you're interested in renewable energy, that's another. You can also come to us or ASU, depending on what your interests lie. But we're very much at the beginning stages of exploring what this could look like, but are super excited. So I'll pause there. Ferg, any thoughts on this one?
No, I think you covered it all. And I also will say Rio Hondo, again, has an emerging program that's going to deal with energy installation and storage and whatnot. So that's another good program to look into.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Ferg. And then the last piece, the one that's kind of a multiple theme. So it's transit, water, infrastructure, construction, and building trades. One idea or recommendation around there is another wonderful partner of ours, LA Conservation Corps. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but they do a lot of environmentally focused youth development. And they do a number of different projects from, restoring habitat, recycling, building parks and community gardens. So they might be another great avenue if anyone's kind of more interested in that kind of theme. And Ferg, any thoughts on that one?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
And what are there any barriers to entry? I'm just thinking of someone that, are there any prerequisites to starting some of these programs, or are they pretty much open to all? And maybe sort of like a piggyback question, what are some of the skills gaps, I guess, and what sort of courses or classes should young people take to prepare them for entering some of these more specific programs?
That's a really good question. All the programs that Estelle and I have mentioned so far have really low points of entry. Much similar to our program, we provide training, or some of our basic eligibility requirements would be 18 years of age or older, low to moderate income, high school diploma or equivalent. For us, it's a Los Angeles County resident, and just merely having an interest in clean technology and whatever particular focus area that we are training on at that particular time. That's much similar to LA Conservation Corps, basic eligibility requirements for your community colleges as well. But I would also say that some of the, I guess the skills gaps are some of the barriers would be soft skills. I believe soft skills are critically important. It's really easy to teach someone the technical parts of an actual job or a particular area, but it's those interpersonal communication skills, being able to communicate with others, time management, problem solving. These are all skills gaps that I believe definitely need extra attention. At LACI, our APC fellowship program, we have a designated career coach that helps with all of those areas, from interpersonal communication skills to interviewing, all the way to an elevator pitch and how to build a successful LinkedIn profile. And so if you're looking at any type of union or labor opportunities, of course, that's a low point of entry as well. But it would also require some type of competency in your basic math and writing and reading skills. But that's something that a community college can help with as an entry point and as a springboard as well to get into the union, where some credits can be attained ahead of time to kind of cut down some of the time that you would otherwise have to spend in your pre-apprenticeship going through when you go through a union.
That's interesting. And for any high schoolers that might be watching this, is your advice pretty similar, is to work on interpersonal skills, soft skills, and also maybe the STEM classes or others?
Yeah, absolutely. It's critically important. I would say that STEM should arguably eventually, from what I've seen at one point, problem solving was a hard skill, but now it's considered a soft skill. So I wouldn't be surprised if STEM education eventually becomes a soft skill, especially, in clean technology and this new industrial revolution that, we're really kind of seeing on the horizon. So coding and computer science and things of that sort are really through lines for the clean tech ecosystem, green job ecosystem. So absolutely. Estelle, anything you want to add to that?
Oh yeah, and I was just gonna share, for high school students, or for anyone here who's just wondering how to best explore potential opportunities. An exercise you could do is just get out a sheet of paper and draw two circles that kind of intersect. Let me see if I can give you an example. Get a Post-it. So a Venn diagram sort of, can you guys see this? So in one circle, you could write out all the hobbies, things you enjoy doing in your spare time, all the things you love to do, things you're passionate about. So put all of that in the first circle. And then in the second circle, as you're looking at job opportunities and reviewing job descriptions, writing those elements of those jobs that really fascinate you, that intrigue you. And then what you could do is think about as you're reviewing your list, where's the intersection of these things? where does what you love to do match like an actual job? And that can really kind of help you better navigate like your interest in transforming like your interest or a hobby into a trade.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, Estelle, another resource, because I think the Venn diagram is phenomenal. It's a great exercise. You can also use mynextmove.org, and I can add that to the chat. It's a really good assessment that is through a Department of Labor website. This is the go-to to figure out what type of jobs are available and the skills that are necessary, much similar to your BLS. But My Next Move is, I think, 60 questions. It takes maybe less than 5 or 10 minutes. And it helps to break down what your interests are based on what they call the RIASEC. So R, for example, would be realistic, and I would be investigative, A would be artistic, so forth and so on. So that's a really good tool to possibly use, in addition to the Venn diagram as well. Thank you, Estelle.
Of course.
This has been really great. And reading through the LACI Green Jobs Report, I noticed that just thinking more broadly within our county, there are a lot of different stakeholders involved to help us get to that goal of 600,000 green jobs in the county. What are some of the primary stakeholders in this county that need to work together to meet that goal?
It's a really good question, and Estelle, feel free to add on to this. But one of the reasons why our Green Jobs Report is really, I guess, successful and well received is because of the advisory group that we formed. And so really the components of that advisory group consisted of private partners, corporations, also labor, government, and also academia as well. And so those are a few, and Estelle, you can add to that really are going to be critical in helping to advance this green economy. Organizations like BYD, it's Build Your Dreams, which are making medium duty electric vehicles, are really kind of doing workforce development on a new scale, much similar to that of Proterra, where they're bringing in the unions and they're doing the training, and then also bringing in community colleges as well to form this relationship and building an agreement to build a talent pipeline that goes directly into their organizations. So if there's anything you'd like to add to that, Estelle, I'll go ahead and kick it to you.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. So like, in addition to the advisory group that we had formed to create the report, now that the report is complete, like our goal is also to form a regional consortium, like also engaging some of the key players or sectors that Ferg had mentioned to figure out, all right, how do we get to 600,000 green jobs? Who's going to be doing what? What does this look like in terms of timeline? How do we collaborate together? How do we connect the dots? So there's a much bigger conversation to be had to see how all of these like critical players can come together to actualize our goal.
I sure would like to see that in the green building space. There's a lot of technology like heat pump water heaters and heat pump HVAC, which have been around for a decade now, but they're not always at the front of mind when a contractor is replacing equipment in our buildings. And so I'd love to see that collaboration with the heat pump manufacturers, training contractors and potential contractors in the technology, how to sell it and how to install it and maintain it. So I really see that that sort of vertical integration between the manufacturers and the contractors, and also the cities that do plan checks and permitting so that they're familiar with the clean technology as well.
You're exactly right. And then just to like make sure, like once they figure all of that out, like the workforce that they're going to need to fill all those positions. So how does everyone play their role?
Great. Well, I'm out of my predetermined questions. I'd love for Estelle and Daniel, if there are other things that you want to highlight in our time together, to please feel free to do so, and then we can open up to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Stuart Cooley and SMC. I see that he's on the call and they're doing incredible work in the sustainability space. So that's another pillar and giant in the sustainability space as it relates to community colleges. They're really helping to move the needle in making sure that students receive that solid STEM education. So it's good to see you, Stuart.
Well, thanks. But to be honest, I retired last year with the COVID. It was hard to do the hands-on training. And so the program at Santa Monica seems to be on permanent hiatus. So I'd love to get back involved again, probably at a more limited basis than the full-time teaching I was doing. But so that's one reason I'm on the call.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks. And congrats on the retirement, Stuart. We'll be in touch.
Well, the problems that still need to be solved. So I'm back at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ferg and Estelle, I have a question. As we all know, there's a lot of programs. How do we get, or how is your philosophy or recruitment strategy into getting people to be able to be part of those programs? Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to chime in, Estelle, but we're really boots on the ground. I want to definitely commend Estelle for being forward thinking back in 2019 when she hired a community engagement manager to help to really get the word out about all of our programs across the board, from workforce development to middle school girls program to our women in clean tech, all the way to our pilots work. Jose Hernandez has really been instrumental in getting the word out about our workforce development program. So we've intentionally approached community-based organizations on an individual basis, providing presentations, also working with our probation departments to help to get some of the individuals that are reentering back into society an opportunity, and also just making sure that we have a diverse population of females that are represented, LGBTQ+. And so that's one of the ways that we're getting the word out. A lot of it is word of mouth. And then also we have a really great, partnership with our city that helps to blast out correspondence for the APC Fellowship Program, just to make sure that, it's spread it, far and wide. So Estelle, anything to add to that?
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Before I start asking more questions, I know that we have many people here. If you would like to ask a question to our esteemed guest today, feel free, one at a time. Feel free to take yourself off mute and ask a question to Ferg or Estelle.
Okay, I see your hand. Is it Domi?
Yeah, Domi Peturo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Pleasure.
All right, I just got in from Northern California and had an email from Drew to remind me about this thing here. So it's great. Thanks, great for the presentation. And I was a student with Stuart with his amazing photovoltaics program, and I'm with the art department, design department.
I will speak with Shane because they're doing that for another.
Trying to continue with things there. What's the interest and thoughts of working with Santa Monica and like Drew and Stuart? They're working out at the Santa Monica airport. Is there any ways we can do things with LACI and downtown and the whole efforts?
Yeah, let's set up some time to meet. Let's make it happen. We definitely would love to work with you all at Santa Monica.
Stuart, Drew?
Yeah, I think very much in the short term. I mean, we could, Ferg, you mentioned that, you work with Los Angeles to spread the word far and wide, but, the city of Santa Monica could also be a conduit. And Michael here has great connections with various entities to spread the word about your program. So we definitely want to be a conduit. And then, also we'd love to also be a host for any training programs, on the West Side, to have sort of a West Side LACI, if you will. That we should definitely have that conversation.
Super excited. And this is
Melody
actually very
Rosanna Brooks. Oh, that's beautiful.
a very timely conversation because, you know, as we think about
Yeah,
like,
well, what I have is this one client. And what I did,
Wow, Rosina.
so sorry about like, so as we think about like the next phase of our APC fellowship program, you know, we're thinking about like, you know, how do we just not keep it at LACI and our advanced prototyping center? As Ferg mentioned, our last cohort was done in partnership with Trade Tech. And now we're also exploring like place-based, like how do we meet our participants where they are? So, I mean, this is very timely for this conversation and super excited. And then Dami, we actually do have a LACI presence in Santa Monica. We have a zero emissions delivery zone
Yeah,
pilot
I
happening.
know
Did
about
you?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I
awesome.
totally know
Okay.
about that.
Oh,
Listen,
great.
just to let you know, Stuart I work with great, and he's Mr. PV. And I'm from the design side of things, but I've worked with natural materials for years. And Stuart and I were trying to get things rolling. So, and Drew, when we all just had a meeting about this. So whatever, yeah, we're all interested.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic. And I also want to mention Domi and Stuart. We've had a few SMC students and graduates come through our APC fellowship program, one being Kelvin Garvin. And he just completed this year with his AA degree, I believe, in supply chain and logistics. And he did extremely well. He was in our inaugural cohort and ended up working as an intern for Los Angeles City Board of Public Works and was able to get a bill chartered, and now is working on starting up his own company dealing with food insecurity. So, you know, Santa Monica College has really great, you know, participants you've all sent our way. So we were definitely excited to continue to work with you all.
Excellent. Well, we'll follow up afterwards, as you said, Dan. Thank you.
Feel free, anyone who else may have a question, feel free to raise your hand and Daniel or Estelle will call you out. All questions are good questions.
I have a question, actually, Michael. Sorry. Can I just ask it?
That wall looks.
Okay, sorry about that. We were trying to figure out the audio. So when people go through these programs, who is the primary sector where they're getting hired? Is it public sector, like government, or is it more private entities? I know you guys are involved with a lot of entrepreneurship. Where do you see the most opportunities there?
I would have to say it's definitely a combination of both, but I would say the lion's share is private industry. We are really fortunate to have our startups at LACI that hired our APC fellowship graduates. In fact, Charger Help, which you all will hear from soon, has hired, I believe, 7 of our APC fellows to date, and they're growing pretty rapidly. We've had other startups hire our grads, and we have our transportation electrification partnership, which is public-private entities that are all moving toward helping to electrify the Olympics and Paralympics in 2028, which involves the deployment of 84,000 charging stations, reducing GHG emissions by 30%. And all these goals, these are public and private partners. And so we've had companies like PCS Energy, that is one of our founding tech partners, that has helped to hire some of our APC fellows as well. So we're really fortunate to have a lot of private sector partners. But as I mentioned, you know, we're really proud to have like the LA City Board of Public Works and other public entities to help to place our students as interns and subsequently kind of be a springboard that eventually turns into other successes.
And I'll just piggyback onto that, because that's beautiful. For just one beautiful part of being part of an incubator, as Ferg has mentioned, is like you already have like potential employers via our startups, and then via our ecosystem, all of those like public players as well. And then just wanted to share, like, one of the things we've started integrating as a best practice in developing our workforce trainings is actually keeping the end goal in mind. Like, what are the positions that are going to be opening up? What are the requirements? And then we actually do a focus group with potential employers at the beginning, before the training even begins, to help inform the curriculum, what credentials and certifications do the fellows need upon graduation, such that they can be placed easily on the back end into jobs.
Yes.
Would there be any opportunities
Allison,
for
like the
on-the-job
university,
training for, say, like the students that have been going to school at home and had a hard time during this past, this past 2020 and graduating? Is there any opportunities for students to get just on-the-job training?
If I heard your question correctly, Karen, you're asking if there's any opportunities for students to receive on-the-job training. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, so any of our participants that are 18 years of age or older and meet our basic eligibility requirements, one of the parts of our program is after they complete their technical bootcamp training, they're placed in a 3-month internship that is paid by LACI, where they can house their internships with our startups or any of our partner organizations to get the hands-on experience and to basically use what they've learned during the technical bootcamp. So one example would be, one of our participants was an intern at one of our startups, Maxwell Vehicles, helping to understand, how Maxwell converted delivery, our small vans into operated electrically. And so as a result, that experience helped that intern to get a job at LADWP working as an engineer with those additional skills and training. So we do offer 3-month internships.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Is your internship application process rolling, or are they by semesters, or when's the next opportunity for folks to apply? And how many do you accept each term?
Great question. So our program is a cohort. It's a cohort model. So we have 2 programs or 2 APC fellowships annually. Our next program is set to launch in December, which is a late fall, and we'll probably open up application window sometime in September or October. And our theme, highly anticipated theme, will be microgrid training. So when we talked about the energy storage, solar panel installation, we'll be focused on that and providing folks with training to learn how to install and maintain microgrids.
That's amazing and much needed. How many participants are in the cohort? I missed that.
Yes, I'm sorry. That was the second part of your question. Each cohort is 30 participants, and we choose 15 to advance to our internship. But we have a career fair for all participants, whether they advance to the internship or not.
Cool. Ferg and Estelle, a real quick question for me. As you know, a lot of young folks and people, some of our older folks that are coming back to trying to figure out a new career or things to do. As someone who was in sales, what has been kind of your, talking point, elevator pitch, speech to get somebody who's on the fence to, try to invest in this? So yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So you're asking, like, what would be kind of like a selling point for those that are either transitioning out of the workforce or having to make a just transition into the green economy, like what would be a compelling story or talking point to get them interested, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. I don't think I've ever had to do that or to do a sales pitch for those. I think that most of the folks that come to us are pretty much, interested or at least have some type of interest in learning. But if I were to come up with talking points, I would have to say, that number one, if they have children or grandchildren, then they would want their grandchildren to have a brighter and cleaner, future, as it relates to air and pollution than they had. And the second point is that with, the green job sector, the hope is that, the pay would be more and it would be not only economic, but also an environmental benefit associated with making that just transition as well. But last but not least, definitely a social impact too. So those would be some key points that I would bring up. Estelle, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, those are beautiful. And I mean, I'm just thinking about like, not necessarily like marketing to the participant. Like I'm thinking about all the grant proposals we've written to raise money for our workforce development training, and some of the ways that we, distinguish our training versus other incredible like workforce trainings in this space is number one, like the technical training, because we have access to an advanced prototyping center on campus with, a machine shop, a welding lab, an electronics lab where people get to do, hands-on training. Like that's a huge plus. And then the second piece is that, sometimes, there's some trainings that, train you, but that there's no real, like what happens after the training's complete. So I think for us, another benefit is that because we are an incubator, we have direct connections to job opportunities at all of our startups across all of our programs.
Thank you for that. I always believe in messaging and how for somebody to have an opportunity when they may not have seen one. And, just to kind of echo Drew, I know that we will have the link for the Green Jobs Report. I know that all of you that are here, I think it's a great coffee tea read that you can go through and kind of see what this consortium of, educators, people, business, or as you guys said before, the people that you worked with to do. Okay, there goes a Green Jobs Report. Thanks, Daniel. Ferg. I just wanted to put that out there because when I read it, I had so many questions and with Estelle and Ferg here today answering these questions, it brings even more of the information to light. With that being said, is there anyone else who has questions for our speakers?
There's a first question in the chat. Do you offer any pathways into the water industry, or are you mostly focused on energy?
I'm sorry, Alex, could you repeat the question?
Oh, the question is in the chat. Are there pathways into the water efficiency or basically water industry, or is it mostly focused on energy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's definitely pathways into the water industry. I know that some of the municipalities and even the IOUs, which are independent owned utilities, definitely have a lot of water opportunities available. We have yet to dive into that smart and sustainable cities area, but we're looking toward that as we move into microgrid training, which is kind of a nexus between clean energy and smart sustainable cities. But eventually we hope to have a focus in that area. I know that there's different measures. I believe it's Measure W that will definitely bring about a lot of public investment into the water industry, which subsequently would create jobs in that area. If there's any opportunities that I see immediately that provides training in those areas, I'll be sure to send it over to the team here to be able to send it out. Estelle, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, thank you, Ferg. And just one thought, like another way to just kind of break in addition to seeking out specific workforce trainings around water, because I also do in our team, like a lot of work around women in clean tech and engaging more women into the clean tech sector. So there is an organization called AWI, which stands for the Association of Women in Water, Energy, and the Environment. I'll put it in the chat in case you want to just kind of network and learn more about the space and like what you might be particularly interested in to guide you to the right workforce training program.
Thank you, Estelle.
Thank you.
Well, if there isn't any more questions, if Estelle or Ferg, you have any parting words with us, or I'll pass it back to Drew and we can go ahead and put a bow on this presentation.
Awesome. I mean, I think just in closing, I just want to say, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Alice, so much for having Ferg and me. It's been such a treat and such a pleasure to connect with all of you. Thank you all for joining us. I guess just in closing, would love to invite you all, like once our campus fully opens up, would love to invite you to campus for a tour. Would love to connect with any of you kind of one-on-one or in small groups to figure out, additional ways to collaborate together, but just super excited to connect.
And I also want to echo Estelle's remarks and sentiments. I was really excited to take part in this opportunity, so thanks for having us. And I always like to end any workforce development conversation on talking about ships. We always look at ships as a means to get to our destination, but oftentimes we don't necessarily think about how beautiful the journey can be. And so I always tell anyone that's interested in career pathways and really breaking into an industry, there's 3 important types of ships. That's mentorship, relationships, and apprenticeships. And if you really hone in and focus on those 3, the sky's the limit. And so thanks again for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you all next time. Take care.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.